waiting for me to get my presentation pulled up for you, go ahead and put in the chat where you are from. Go ahead and put in the chat where you're from. Where? Florida. Oh, Brandy in Tampa. Nice. Hi, Karen. Great to see you. Great to see you. This is going to be good, guys. This is going to be good. I'm so excited for you. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Darla Bonk. We are here for the 5 days of the Mind Metamorphosis Masterclass. That's a mouthful, but that's okay, because what we're going to walk through this week, guys, is absolutely a testament of my personal journey of what I have gone through in my life. And what you are going to find is that there is a lot of me that you're going to learn about this week, and not because of what I've done so much in my business, which is very successful, but it is what I have done and chosen to do in my life. And I am so passionate about it that I have spent about 6 months of this year studying all of this to be able to bring to you this 5 days of a mastermind that, whether you do anything else outside of this 5 days, you're going to be able to take away tangible concepts that you can implement today into your life to make massive change in your life. And that's what we're all here for, right? It's not about the money. It's not about all of this stuff. It is about a peace of mind. And if you are in my community, you guys know it is about balling out. It is about building and living a life that you love. And it is so important to me that I want to share that with you. So let's learn a little bit about me. As I mentioned, I'm the founder of Darla Bonk Consulting, and I have had over 20 years of a very successful business career, from corporate America to now having 2 businesses under my belt, 15 employees. One business is an $8 million business. The other business, this consulting business, in its first year is going to do well over 6 figures this year. And it is because of the concepts that I am going to teach you. And again, it is not about the money. It is about the concepts that are going to help you create the life that you want to live, because you only get one life and you only get to live it once, and you are the only one that is living it. And I want you to make it the best you possibly can. And I want you to be able to learn from the mistakes I made and learn from my scars, so you don't have to have the same type of timeline delay to maximize the life that you want to have. So I want to share with you just a little bit about my past of how I got here. So this is me. This is quite a while ago. Notice the very plump cheeks and the thin face that is no longer as prevalent, but that's okay. So this is my children. I have an 8 and a 5-year-old at this time in this picture. My son, Tristan, my daughter, Hannah, and they are my whole entire world. What I didn't realize is that I was going to have to change the entirety of the world that we were living in by fleeing the state of Tennessee back to my home state of Florida that I left after high school because I never wanted to be here, and had to flee in the middle of the night with the police escort with an 8 and a 5-year-old to escape an abusive situation. But I did it. And I was able to come back to a haven of people and a haven in a community that surrounded me and loved me and understood me and believed in me when I did not believe in myself, and when I had absolutely hit rock bottom. I was in this beautiful corporate world. I loved it. I do not have the horror stories about corporate America that everybody else has. I loved corporate America. I loved it. I loved my job. I loved everything about it. I had the whole trajectory. I was like, I'm a soldier for the army of the corporate America, you know, that kind of a deal. But I had to give that up to get to safety. I had to give up what was ultimately my identity for safety. And let me tell you guys, that sucked. I'll just tell you, it sucked. So for 4 months, I didn't work and I started all over again and I drained a 401k. I took on all the debt so that I could have safety for my kids and we could start over. And I had parents who loved me. I had family that supported me. I had siblings who saw in me what I did not have the capacity at that time to see in myself. And so I had to borrow their belief in me. I had to borrow their belief in what I could possibly do because I had gotten to a point where even though I was able to escape with these kids, guys, I had never failed in anything in my life. I was good at everything. I never studied in high school. I was a pretty decent athlete. I didn't struggle. I came from a beautiful family. My parents are 88 and 87. They have been married for 68 years. I don't have a horror story from childhood. It was great. The horror story was my ability to make absolutely terrible decisions because I wanted to save the world. I wanted to save the world. And as a result, it crushed mine. It crushed mine. But I can now tell you that looking back over that experience, it is something that I am so grateful for. I don't have a single regret about it because it has shaped me and it has made me who I am. And it has made me be able to turn around and see people in their circumstances and understand them and get them in a way that I never would have been able to do had I not gone through that nightmare in my life. Those kids I would fall on my sword for, and not just because I'm their mom, because I actually really like them and they like me. And I can remember going through a court case and my dad had been helping me because I was trying to get child support. I was working 2 jobs. And at one point I worked 3 jobs to put food on this table. And I had come from a very cushy corporate life. Remember, drained the 401k, working 2 jobs, sometimes 3, single mom with these babies. And my dad said to me, and it was game changing for me. And it's a little emotional to tell, but he said, baby girl, you have absolutely everything you need inside of you to make this work. You don't need that. You can find a way. And it wasn't just about borrowing beliefs at that point. It became a place where, man, come hell or high water, I'm going to make something of this life. I don't care who's with me or who's against me. I'm going to do it. And I did. And so looking back, the teary eyes are not from pain or suffering. It's from, man, I get what it feels like to be in those deep, dark, empty places where you feel like there is nothing the world has to offer and that everybody's out against you. And that, man, where do I go from here? And I will tell you, your goals are met. Your life has changed one day at a time, one moment at a time, one choice at a time, one belief at a time. And I can tell you now, these little babies are thriving and flourishing 20 something plus years later. One of them is married. One of them still lives here, has a beautiful girlfriend that we hope will become a future daughter-in-law. I am married to a tremendous man who we got married. We've known each other all of our lives. We grew up together in elementary school and high school, went to youth group at church together, never dated. And we decided back in 2016 to get married, start a business, merge 4 teenagers and 3 dogs, because why not? All that was missing was the partridge in a pear tree. I'm telling you guys. But I will tell you, life has been blissful because I changed what I believed about myself and the world around me to be true. So much so that these babies, let's just say it, for all of us who are fur parents, these are the ones that really matter, right? You come home and they love you unconditionally. They love you no matter what. But you know what I've learned about pets? They teach you how you should see yourself. You should love yourself no matter what. And I just want to tell you, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're going through, you are worth everything you need and want in your life right now. You are worthy enough to have it. If nothing changes, simply because of who you are. It's not about what you do. It's not about what you accomplish. It's not about your business. It's not about your employees. It's not, you are important and good enough and worthy. And there's an old Saturday Night Live. You'll see a lot of sarcastic humor this week if you stay all 5 days. But there's an old Saturday Night Live sketch, and Gary Smalley sits there and he says, "You're good enough, you're smart enough, and doggone it, people like you." And if nothing else, you know you've got your pets that like you, but don't you want to get to a place where you like yourself, regardless of what anybody else thinks about you, regardless of what anybody else believes for you to be true? Isn't that important enough? I sure think so. And that's why I created this masterclass, because it is about changing the trajectory of your life by what is happening in between your ears. So here's what you can expect this week with me. As you've just seen, you're going to get authenticity. You're going to get some realness from me. You may not like all the things that you hear, but I promise you they're coming from a great, genuine place that is challenging you to think. I'm not going to teach you what to think this week. I'm going to help you give yourself permission to change how you think. And I hope by sharing my story, I will build your trust to go down this journey with me. And there's not going to be a lot of fluff. I'm not an overly technical person. I'm not going to have all these systems and methodologies. We're going to talk about real things and tangible conversations. And we're going to get into some of the weeds about things that you don't want to talk about at parties, that you don't want to talk about when you're sitting there with the sisters or with your family or with people in your business network. But there will be tangible takeaways. And I will share with you the truth. And the first one right out the gate at 12:15 is this: there is no magic pill. There is no magic pill. It is day in and day out, and it is showing up, and it is doing the work, and it is committing to the commitments that you make, not to me, not to your partner, not to your spouse, not to anybody else, but to you. Because you will hear this as a broken record this week. You are the only one living your life. And I hope you will give yourself permission this week to stop living your life according to everybody else's opinion. I hope you'll do that. So I want you to think about this. So you've got the notebook, the workbook in your notes in the chat there. And let me put it in there one more time. And I want you to take just a moment and I want you to think about, why are you here? Why are you really here this week? You made it here. You got here. You were able to, show up and register for this class. And that's fabulous and wonderful. And I'm so glad you are. But why are you actually here? I want you to take just a minute and I want you to write that down. Why are you actually here? I received the comments that you guys made of what you were hoping to accomplish and learn. And I will tell you guys, and Mike, you and I went through this with your team this morning, but it is really imperative that I teach you this material this week, because the reasons that you guys gave for why you're here, some of you, I'm afraid I'm about to lose my house and I haven't told my wife yet. That'll keep you up at night. Some of you are sitting there and you're wondering whether or not your business is going to last another 60 days because the cash flow is not there. Some of you are trying to, look for another job because you feel like you're in a dead-end position. Some of you are just not sure where you're headed for the rest of the year, and you feel like you're just on this hamster wheel. And I will tell you guys, I really had a moment when I got those. And thank you so much for going through the process of the required fields to be able to register and get the link by filling that out. But it lets me know where we are, because we have all been there. We have all been in those moments where we are just like, I am one moment away from just life going off the rails. There isn't anybody here that has not been there at some point in time in their life with something, right? So I want you to talk about this to yourself. Why are you here? I can tell you why you're here, because for most of you, you have hit some type of a plateau. You've hit some type of a plateau in your business, in your life, in your relationships, in your mind. But there is something inside of you that is saying, there has to be more. This cannot be all there is. There has to be more. And I know some of you are really struggling because you know you are meant for more. I know, Darla, I am meant to do more on this life. I don't know how, and I don't know where, and I don't know when, but I know this is not all I'm supposed to do in my life. And for some of you, that gap is enough to paralyze you in your actions, to paralyze you in your life, because you are not sure what you need to do. You are not sure how you need to do it, but you know that you must. And so I want you to think for just a minute, and I'm going to give you a minute. And in the notebook, there's a place for you to do that. Why are you really here? Take just a minute and write some of your thoughts down. Just for a minute. Why are you really here? The next question I want you to ask or answer, but ask yourself, what do you believe about yourself? See, when I was going through that divorce and thinking I'd failed, and here's two little babies I've got to feed, and I'm working 2 jobs, sometimes 3 to feed them, I was thinking, man, I have screwed up their life. I have screwed up these kids' life because I didn't have my crap together. And I will just tell you, I felt that way for about 8 years. I felt that way for about 8 years. And here's something that I will tell you as you're wondering, what do you believe about yourself? I had not only escaped that situation with those babies, but because I did not realize everything about myself, I repeated the cycle. I repeated the cycle. And it was in some ways much worse. It was much worse. And it wasn't until a therapist that I had worked with finally told me, he said, Darla, you are not responsible for who hurt you, but you are responsible to heal you. And I will tell you, I had to sit in that because I was fine to be the victim. They did this, they did that, they hurt me this. And now because what they did, I now have to do this because of their actions. I had to give up this. It was always on somebody else. But I will tell you, when you finally are able to see yourself, you will no longer be able to unsee yourself. And I had to realize one night I was sitting there and I was crying out to God, and I'm a pastor's kid. And I was like, God, where are you? Because I know this is not what you wanted for my life. I know this is not what you expected from me, blah, 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 blah. And he was pretty adamant. I've been here all the time. You're the one that walked away. You're the one that saw you as less than. You're the one that believed you weren't deserving. And I don't say that in a negative way. And I don't say that in a way to bash spirituality or whatever it is you believe in. What I say is there is as we say in the church, a come to Jesus moment when you realize the buck stops with you. For a lot of you business owners, you sit there and you say, oh, the interest rates, let's see what happens in November. Let's see what happens with this. My business is that, my business. And I will just say it is one excuse after another. Mike, we talked about this morning. It is one excuse after another. Because I'm just going to tell you guys, those excuses are always going to be there. Remove election year, insert XYZ, remove interest rates, and oh my gosh, my team isn't going to work the way that I want them to. Why don't any of these people realize who they work for? Anybody ever heard that? Remember who you work for? That's surely going to inspire a team. It starts with you. But if you aren't real with yourself and aren't willing to say what you believe about yourself, you're probably not going to get really far, and you're going to repeat a lot of things. And I can remember crying out to God in that moment in that apartment. And I will never forget that. I banged on this TV in my bedroom and the kids were sleeping, and I banged as quietly as a mother could. And I'm banging on this TV and saying, God, where are you, in that moment where he's like, I've been here this whole time. And having this conversation with myself, like, I don't know how or where or when, but I will get through it. Because I will tell you, had I not had my family who lifted me up when I couldn't or wouldn't, there is no telling where I'd be. There is no telling. So we can borrow beliefs from others for a time, sure. But at some point, we have to take the ownership for our life. And when we do, the cool thing, guys, is what's happening in the world around us, we don't really care because it doesn't have anything to do with us. We choose how much what's happening in the world impacts us or not, because it's our life we're living. So when you're thinking about what you believe about yourself, I want you to follow up that question. Go back and look at what you wrote down. Where's the proof? Where's the proof about what you believe? Is it really based on facts? Is it really based on facts? Take a minute and go through those things you said about yourself. Where's the proof? And is it based on facts? Because I think you might be surprised. Mike, is that better for you guys? Can y'all hear better now? Yeah, okay, I'll push the mic a little bit. Is that better? Okay. Where's the proof on what you believe? And now here's the fun one. What do you want? What do you want? What do you really want in your life? You know, I've worked with a couple of kids who are graduating college and they're going out into the real world and they're freaking out because they've got these degrees that they now hate. They don't want to do the job. They don't want to do this. So you may not know what you want, but you might really know what you don't want. And that's going to be okay too. So if you don't know what you do want, what don't you want? What don't you want to keep having in your life? What don't you want to keep doing in your life? What do you want? And when you do get what you want, what does it look like? What does it look like when you really get what you want? What does it look like when you finally have this life that you have built and now you're living it, and now you're loving it. What does it look like? What does it look like? And then once you have what you want, how will you know you have it? Similar to what does it look like? Another way to ask it. How will you know? How will you know you have it? How will you know, quote unquote, you've arrived, which we never arrive, but you guys get the gist of the question. How will you know? How will you know? And let me tell you why I'm asking this question. And I'm going really slow for a reason, because if you guys can't get this foundation, we can't build. Everything starts with a solid foundation. If you don't know where you are, you have no idea how to get where you're going. And not everybody agrees with that. A lot of people say, it doesn't matter where you are. If you know where you're going, who cares? You have to know where you are. And you have to know then where you're going and what you want or what you don't want, because there is a catechism gap in between those two things. And if you don't know that, let me be here to set you free. If you feel like, oh my gosh, I see where I want to go, but I can't get there. It seems so far away. It seems so much. It is because we fear the unknown. We fear what we don't know. But I want to ask you, how will you know what it looks like? You may not. But can you think differently for a minute instead of fearing the unknown, getting excited about the unknown? Getting excited about what could be, what might be, and how I will train you to get excited about what will be. And it's not just meditation and manifestation. It is deeper than that. So let me just set you all free if you're looking for the meditation or the journal prompt. Okay, so how will you know? So now I want you to think about, what do you want? Back to what we just asked you. Now I want you to break it down by these 9 life domains. So I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Michael Hyatt, but he is the founder of this full focus concept that is not just about work in your life. Your life is broken down by so many things. Your work is broken down by so many things. And there's 9 domains. There's your body, your family, your life, your mind, your community, your hobbies, your spirit, your money, and love. So go back and look at what you said you wanted. How many of these boxes did you leave out? How many of these boxes did you leave out? And I want to spend some time while you're writing and just kind of help you with some of the prompting for your writing with this. So what do you want with your body? It's not just about your physical health. It's about the vitality in your life. And with your family, it may not be your family of origin. It may be the family you choose, and that is okay. But those who are closest to your heart, what do you want? And in your mind, your mental and emotional health and intellect, do you want to just get smarter in a certain topic and have more knowledge? Do you want to learn how to apply that knowledge, which is really where the power comes from? Do you enjoy learning? Do you want to just stop suffering from the mental trauma going on in your mind, the replay loop over and over again you play of the same conversation? How about in your community? The friendships, the groups you belong to in your life and in your work, in your church, in your neighborhood, in your kids' school, sports groups, your gym. What do you want? What about your hobbies? What do you want to be able to have more time and capacity to do that's going to rejuvenate you, that's going to refuel your batteries, it's going to make you more innately you? What about your spirit? What do you want in terms of connecting to something that's greater? For me, right now, just to be candid, again, I promise no fluff. As a person who grew up in the church and as a person who grew up learning about following Jesus and not just being in a church, it's really hard for me right now, especially in this election year, to see a lot of the things that I see with people who claim to have the same title I do that spew so much hate. That's really hard for me to wrestle with right now. What do you want in your spirit? What's going to bring you the peace of mind that is hard for you to work through right now? What about in your money? What aren't you talking about when it comes to your money? What scares you about your money? I'll tell you the one thing that was so great about going through that experience with my babies that I did, wiping out that 401k and having to do that and work my tail off to get out of debt. I'm not afraid about losing money or making money. It doesn't define me. Doesn't define me. I am not naive in saying you don't need money, that everybody, you have to have money to make the world go round, to have the roof over your head. I'm not going down that rabbit hole. But what I'm saying is, I can always find a way to make money. Even if I lose both my businesses, I can always find a way to get a job. I can always find a way to make it work. I'm not afraid of that because I've lost it. What are your fears about money? What do you want about money? Are you wanting all of these things about money, but you're too embarrassed to go ask somebody for help because you don't want to have to say, as a 40, 50, 60-year-old person, or as a husband and father of 4 kids who you're the sole breadwinner, I don't know what I'm doing with our money. I don't know how to invest. I don't know how to do anything but pay a bill. But what if you could learn? What if you are willing to get past that fear of that decision? What could that do with your money? And then, of course, love, that we all talk about, your most significant relationships. What do you really want in love? And what is your responsibility in that relationship to make it be better? So then you can go through this exercise offline, going back through those questions. What will it look like in those? Like I asked you before, once you have what you want. And then again, how will you know? So that will be, there should be some spaces. I think there's 2 sheets in your workbook for the domains, but that's where you can kind of put some of that information in there. Now going back, not just generically, but now specifically in each of those buckets. And what do you want and how will you know? Now I want to go back to what you believe. We talked about in the beginning. What do you believe about yourself? So what do you believe about yourself when it comes to each of those buckets? What do you believe about yourself with your body? Do you have the thunder thighs that your mom gave you that are never going to go away? Do you have the beer gut that you have with all your buddies on a Friday night when you're drinking? What do you believe about yourself to be true when it comes to your body? And how does that keep you from living a life? Same thing with your mind. Same thing with love. Do you believe you're worthy of love? Even if you are in a committed long-term relationship, do you struggle with believing you're capable of it? Because I will tell you, fun story, since we're doing the sharing portion of the program today. When my husband and I were first dating, and again, I've told you I've known him forever, my whole life. We were dating, and I don't remember even what the situation was that happened, but he says to me, honey, I love you. I love you with all my heart. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to ride or die with you. But I'm going to tell you one thing I'm not going to do. I am not going to keep paying the price for the people who came before me that hurt you. And I was I was like, who does he think he is talking to me like that about a situation? And then I got over myself really quickly. And I was like, man, I have brought every belief system about relationships. I brought into, oh, my parents' relationship is an anomaly. That's not normal to be married that long. I've never seen my parents fight. I've never seen my parents argue. And I am the baby of four. And I will tell you, my oldest siblings have also never seen my parents fight or argue. They are just these freaks of nature. And I had no coping skills when I got married. I had no idea how to communicate. I had no idea how to do conflict resolution. I had no idea because I had never seen it. So when my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, said, I'm not going to keep paying the price for who hurt you before me, I remembered back to the therapy of, you're not responsible for who hurt you, but you are responsible to heal you. And I even had a girlfriend one time tell me, if you're going to still live your life based off what your past relationships have said about you or how they've treated you, then why did you even leave? And I will tell you, that shook me to my core. Because I was like, you're right. You're right. I get to choose a different path. I get to choose a different belief system. I get to choose a different way to operate. And it was life-changing for me. Life-changing for me. And so in what you believe, I want to kind of talk through, just so we're all on the same page. What is a belief? A belief is nothing more than an experience you've had, and you attach a thought pattern or a belief system to that experience. I have a friend who, he was 4 or 5 years old and doing something in the garage, and his dad came in and he was like, hey buddy, let me come show you a better way to do that. Harmless. But what he did was project for the next 35 years of his life that he did not have it inside of him to do things correctly, that he was not good enough, that there was always going to be somebody else who could do it better. And he struggled for a long time. Something as simple as that. So think back to what you wrote down of what you believe. How much of that belief system has come from experiences, maybe more negative than positive, that you have attached a belief system to because of an experience? I'll give you a really tangible example. How many of you have ever heard of recency bias? Recency bias. This will tell you who the people are that have been in therapy or not. So recency bias is, some of you in the relationships, you might say, you always do this, or you never do this, right? Which we all know is not true. But a recent activity, a recent exchange in communication will impact what we believe to be true. And so I will attach the belief system about an always or a never based off what just happened. And it will change the trajectory of what I believe from past experiences, rather than allowing real-time experiences to give me permission to change my mind and alter what I believe to be true. As I get older and know things, I get wiser, I'm smarter. Things I believed in and bought into 10 years ago, I promise you, I probably don't believe half of them anymore or agree with half of them anymore. But in your 20s and 30s, you get really rooted in things, and you're off to show the world and prove things to them. And I will tell you, there's people on here where what you know and believe to be true has changed from 10 years ago, and it has changed from the norm of your industry. And everything inside of you is fighting to stay quiet and fighting to just fall in line. But you know that you know that you know that what you know is true and different. And if that means you buck the system, then you buck the system, because you know in doing so, you will change somebody else's life. And that keeps you up at night. And that makes you change or keep going, because you know you're meant for more. You know the world needs to hear what you're offering. But you've attached a belief system to that. But here's what you can expect this week as we start to wrap this up today, is that the impact of your belief is simply this: your beliefs dictate your thoughts. Your beliefs alter your perception of reality. And your beliefs drive all of your subconscious behavior. I will tell you, every relationship I have ever had prior to my husband, there was cheating involved. Every one of them. And I never for a second thought that my husband, then boyfriend, was cheating in any way. But I always was trying to figure out, what is your angle? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to hide? What are you trying? And that's how that conversation came up. So the impact of your belief is changing so many things at the subconscious level that you don't even realize it. You don't even realize it. And so it's not about changing your mind, because that's just a mindset. It is about training your mind, because your mind is going to lie to you. Your mind is filled with billions of neurons that came to fruition by the time you were age 7, that goes down this whole scientific, I'm a total nerd, neuropathology in the scientific community of how we have come to operate from a brain perspective. So I have to retrain my mind to believe something else is possible. I have to unlearn things about myself I allowed myself to believe to be true. And I have to retrain my mind to believe there is a different expectation and a different outcome possible, because I'm willing to train my mind. Because there are going to be times long after this masterclass where these negative thoughts are going to happen. We're going to talk about self-sabotage this week. We're going to talk about what we do when those thoughts come in. It's not about changing your mind. It is about training your mind, because your mind does not need any more motivation to make things happen. Your mind needs a metamorphosis. Your mind needs a metamorphosis. And I want you to think about a butterfly. You know, it's in the chrysalis. It's doing its thing. It's making it happen. And then it becomes this beautiful butterfly. But what can never happen? What can't ever happen? That butterfly is never going back into the form of that chrysalis. So it's not just about transforming your mind. Right? Transformers, if you've ever seen the movie, again, I'm a nerd. I had a little boy who was a total boy, and I was such a boy mom, loved it. The Transformers, they go from these cars to these robots, and then they go back, right? A metamorphosis, you cannot go back. I will never go back to that day of poor me. Oh my gosh, how did my life get this way? I am now very much, it does not matter how my life got this way. What am I willing to do about it now? And it is an instinctive thought pattern that I have now. You cannot go back into the cocoon or the chrysalis. You just can't do it. So what is an actual metamorphosis? Why did I give you a tongue twister for a masterclass? It is the change of the form or the nature of a thing or a person into a completely different one by natural means. It's a dramatic change in the form, and often in the habits during development. The habits, the action It is a striking change in appearance and demeanor, character, and actions in circumstances. And let me just go one step further and give you some examples of a metamorphosis. Think about a newborn. Think about how cute and cuddly they are. And thank God my kids are grown and gone. Love newborns. They smell fabulous. But a newborn turns into a toddler. A toddler turns into a child. That child, in our world, we're going back to school across America, is never going to go back and be a newborn. A child's going to turn into an adolescent, and that adolescent into an adult. And that adult is never going to go back and be a child again. Many of us are so grateful that we are never going back to junior high or high school again, right? It's never going to happen. You're never going to return back to the state in which you had a metamorphosis when you are committed to actually doing it. Because it's more than just this, oh, change my mind. It is coming from a place when you are willing to grow. You're willing to let yourself change your mind about something you thought was true and insert that with a new idea and belief. When you're willing to adapt, when you are willing to overcome and reset and rethink. And that is not just when we are in what I had to deal with, a fight or flight mode. It is a daily choice of what do I need to do to overcome the situation, to stay on the trajectory of what I want my life to be. And it is so much more than just self-awareness, guys. It is about training the mind. It is training the mind, not changing your mind. It's training the mind. And the state of your life is an absolute direct proportion to what you believe. David Bayer said that. And because of my roots, I'll go one step further and let you know that your brain is a goal-achieving machine. You were created to accomplish incredible things. Incredible things. It is a goal-achieving machine. Your brain wants to do great things for you. But it also does not understand the difference between imagination and reality. And there was a study done by Harvard back in 2009, 2010. These professors brought in these piano players. And basically, what they determined was they hooked them up to all these sensors and everything on their brain. And as they played the piano, the brain was firing. All these neurons were firing. Then they asked them to come back and visualize playing. And the neurons in the brain did the exact same thing as if they were playing. As if they were playing. So it's not about having some brilliant, creative, new, innovative way to do things. You don't need a strategy. Your brain is your strategy. Your brain is your strategy. And Jeremy Godwin says it's your ability to grow and evolve that defines your humanity and which allows you to reshape yourself into an entirely different person over time. And that means that you can totally transform your life in order to do and be almost anything with time and effort and perseverance. And Romans 12:2 says, do not conform the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So here's the biggest thing for you today. Are you willing to allow yourself to no longer hold on to what people in your life have said about you to be true? You must allow yourself to no longer hold on to what people in your life have said about you to be true. And how many of you have been guilty of that in your life? All of us, right? We have all been guilty of that. Because here's the thing, guys. If nothing changes in how you approach up here, nothing changes. Because all you're going to do is be doing what somebody else tells you to do. And you're not a robot. You were meant to do incredible things. What do you believe? What do you believe? So here's one of the big questions for you. And you'll see some journaling at the end of this workbook. What needs to change in your life? What has to change in your life? What needs to change in your life? And I hope you will sit with this for a few minutes. Yeah, Sharon, the people are long dead, but their statement lives on. So true. It is so true. And it's gut-wrenching and heartbreaking because at such a young age, that was imprinted on our mind. But we have to heal. We have to make the change. We have to train our brain that those limiting beliefs that we have are just that. They're limiting. But the beliefs to go and do incredible things is exciting and joyful and wondrous. And I can give you example after example after example of people who later on in life finally achieved everything that they were meant to achieve because of this work right here. And that's what we're going to talk about this week. So my question to you guys, are you ready? Are you ready to dive in and do some of this work this week? I told you it wasn't fluff. I told you it was going to get real. But what if you're spending 5 hours? Don't you want it to be worth it? Don't you want it to change the trajectory of your life? And that's what we're going to do this week. So I hope today has been helpful for you. I hope it has got your wheels spinning. I want you thinking today. I want you thinking differently. I want you to question everything today. And I'm going to ask you to join me back here tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, everybody, have a great afternoon.